What's going on? This is Clay Squires from Santa Lucia's High School. I'm a U.S. history teacher. Welcome back. And today, what we're going to be looking at and exploring is the U.S. imperialist ambitions. What we want to try to do is understand what is imperialism, what is an ambition. An ambition is something you strive for. And we're going to be looking at this first benchmark 4.1. It says, analyze the major factors that drove the United States imperialism. So let's just get started. So major factors driving imperialism in the U.S. All right, so the manifest destiny. We probably heard about that earlier. If not, let me just tell you what it is. Manifest destiny is the belief that America had a God-given right, and this is really important, God-given right, to spread westward and acquire new territories. And once America was fully under the control and established from coast to coast, a lot of Americans, they said, well, we already captured California, Oregon, Washington. Where do we go now? What do we do? And the idea was to try to act like some of the superpowers in the world at the time. For instance, Spain, France, England. They were the top dogs on the global scene. And so this was our opportunity to take a chance and expand. Now, one thing about imperialism is we had to model our imperialism on somebody else's. And in Cuba, which is very close to the United States, about 90 miles away from Key West, right here, Spain owned the island. And the U.S., since the Civil War, had wanted to acquire this island. Why'd they want to do that? Let's take a look here. Sugar, salt, tobacco, money. They had resources. Okay, we had already seen what resources the United States offered. Now we wanted to tap into other markets to either sell more American products. We wanted cheap labor from their workers. There was a possibility of resources that we didn't have in our country and new industrial expansion. All of these things are reasons why we would maybe possibly want overseas territories. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, overseas possessions. These are some of the overseas possessions: Hawaii, Guam, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Philippines. These are all overseas territories, even some parts of China at one point in time we had access to. That was called the open door policy. As you can see here, I have an open door, and the open door policy was essentially just trade back and forth with China. They were open to letting us come in, and not only the United States, but other European countries like France and England, and trade with China directly and even own some of their property. Okay, so China, we can talk about as a pawn in the U.S. imperialism. Why do we go to China now to manufacture products? Well, because it's cheaper. The same thing applied back then. So we use them as a chess piece. And spheres of influence are needed, special word right here, needed for global trade domination. This is a sphere of influence. This area right over here with Puerto Rico and Cuba, that's a sphere of influence. It's important because it's close to us, or this is important because it offers us something. China was important for many reasons: rice, tea, silk, textiles. Textiles, if you just kind of look at your clothes, that's a textile. That was considered the open door policy. At any point, stop the video and take a look and review some of this. All right, let's get to the next slide. All right, imperialism defined in simple terms. Imperialism, the rule of one country by another. Take a look at some of these examples. Jamaica, owned by England. Mexico, formerly owned by Spain. Haiti, formerly owned by France. What do they speak in Mexico? Spanish. What do they speak in Jamaica? English. What do they speak in Haiti? Well, Creole, but a derivative of French. And new technologies aided in the ability to colonize the new territory. Inventions such as the steamboat, the machine gun, the telephone, and new medicines made the exploration much more easy or possible. All right, and this is the last one. Racism as a cause for imperialism. When we think about imperialism, a lot of people don't think of racism, but there was a lot of racism that went on. So let's take a look at white man's burden. The idea that men and women of British origin were a superior race that was supposed to rule over others. These are political cartoons. As you can see right here, this is Uncle Sam. And this is actually, let's say this is somebody from the British Empire. And we have what looks to be some Asians, people from the Middle East, maybe an African colony in the basket. And then here is showing a depiction of Cubans. Showing a depiction of Cubans, and he's having to bear the weight of these minorities. Super racist. You would never see anything like that today, but back in this day, that was okay. And this was a real thing. Lastly, let's take a look at this political cartoon. Uncle Sam grabbing onto Cuba. His big old greedy hands. Look at these arrows right here focused in on the hands. That's very important. You may see that on the test. And then lastly, this is Teddy Roosevelt. This is a depiction of the Spanish-American War. And he's carrying what looks to be like an Indian or Native American. I can't even tell. It looks like a chicken crossed with a monkey. This is a very racist cartoon showing that we needed to come in and take control because we knew how to run a country. That's what they're kind of saying in these depictions. So this is very important. These are some of the cartoons that you might see. And you have to be able to identify maybe who this person is, this Teddy Roosevelt. Understand what this has to do with anything in imperialism. And the Spanish-American War also ties in nicely with this. So if we go back here, PPG, they were all territories gained in the Spanish-American War. So PPG, Puerto Rico, Philippines, and Guam. We all took this once we defeated Spain and Cuba. So once we defeated Spain, once they were knocked out and we took over, these are the territories that were given to us. Not Cuba, because we took this on as a protectorate, but we had a lot of control there. All right, I hope this helped out. Hit the like button, and I'll see you soon.